Have you ever wondered if the study abroad stories you scroll past are actually filtered? Hey everyone, this is Tina. Today is episode 2 of Real Talk from Rotterdam. In this episode, I will share some good parts and some not so easy parts. Let me start with something my husband said. One night, I was up late doing my homework and he said, "Oh, you were so lazy back in college. Why are you suddenly this serious now?" I told him, maybe it's because this time I'm the one paying the tuition. That line still makes me laugh when I think about it. But it's also completely true. So this episode is about what it actually feels like to go back to school at this age. Year 1, a surprising discovery. From what I've seen myself and from real stories I've come across, there are actually more people in their 40s going back to school than I'd think. I know someone who is 43. He spent over 20 years in logistic management before retiring and deciding to start a second master's degree. Something he said has really stuck with me. He said, "I wanted to try a different life. I felt like there might be other possibilities for me. I still don't know what I can do, but I wanted to start." There are similar stories out there too. Some people say going abroad to study reshaped who they are, made them braver and more confident. Others, even in their mid-40s, say they've managed to stay generally young and still learning, still growing. So I think I'm the unusual one. Then I realize people brave enough to restart at this age have actually always been out there. Coming into this with work experience already under your belt, the experience is generally different. I'm not walking into class with a blank slate. I'm carrying 10 plus years of industry experience and I naturally started matching it against everything being taught. For example, when a professor talks about trade, supply chains, globalization, I find myself thinking, oh, that's exactly what I was dealing with back then. That kind of recognition isn't something a fresh graduate gets to feel. I've also noticed something about myself. After more than a decade of being trained to memorize answers, identify key points, and build structured frameworks, that foundation actually works in my favor on exams. But when it comes to open-ended thinking and shifting fluently between languages, that's where I fall short. It's a strange contrast, but an honest one. Layer 3, the real difficulty. I don't want to make this sound easier than it is, because honestly, this process has been hard. When the program first started, I could only understand about half of what was said in the class. And I couldn't even do the homework on my own. I'd be watching course videos on the side, looking up readings to understand them, asking AI questions, checking things with classmates, and somehow still scrabbling to turn in a 20-something page assignment right before the deadline. On top of that, there's something a lot of us as Chinese students run into. When I took my IELTS exam, my listening and reading scores were both solid, but speaking was always my weaker section. Once I actually got into class, I realized that academic English and the kind of everyday English my classmates used casually were two completely different things. Honestly, during that period, I felt like I wasn't good enough. I felt a bit insecure. That would still surprise me when I say it out loud, because I've always been the type who is outgoing, easygoing, a little loud even. Insecure is not a word that should describe me, but it really happened. I worried I was too old to keep up. I worried my pronunciation wasn't good enough and that people would laugh. There was a lot of going on in my head and the pressure was real. When I told my close friends how I was feeling, they were generally surprised. They said, "No way, you? Insecure?" But that's exactly the point. How you appear on the outside and what you are actually going through inside can be two completely different things. Layer 4. Why you really see the difficult side. Here's the thing. People tend to show their best side. That's just human nature, and I'm not different. What I post is usually things like, I finished the semester without a single receipt, and am I kind of amazing? Or I predict 3 out of 5 exam questions. Or we survived a month-long port operation simulation and won 4 chocolate bars. Those proud, slightly cheeky little wins. The nights I was too anxious to sleep. The moments I just couldn't understand the material. Those I rarely post. Another thing is, because I have a child, I've also gotten to know quite a few other moms in a similar situation. Moms who came here through study programs and brought their kids along too. A good number of them have generally settled in successfully and are doing well. But I also know one mom I talked to fairly deeply, and things didn't turn out the way she expected. In the end, she decided to take her child and move back home. That kind of outcome isn't rare, but you almost never see it online because it's just not the part people tend to share. In conclude, what it taught me, looking back on this whole process, the biggest change in me isn't how much my English improved or how much knowledge I picked up. It's how I think about things now. Before, I tended to say things simply. Should I do this or not? Is it the right choice or not? As if there's one standard answer. But now I think a lot more about how everyone's circumstances are different. Everyone is holding a different hand of cards. And everyone has their own constraints they are working within. That's why I've stopped being quick to tell people, you should do this, you should do that. Because, honestly, I don't have the right to make that call for someone else's life. That's also why what I shared today isn't advice, and it isn't guidance. It's just the path I walked through going back to school at this age. The struggles, the inner journey, shared with you as a reference. Your situation is different from mine, and your own judgment matters more than my experience. If you've had a similar experience, or if there's something you want to ask, feel free to leave me a comment. And lastly, internet, please hold me accountable for keep practicing my English.